Most e-commerce brands think going international means starting from zero in every new country. They believe you need massive budgets, local offices, or years of brand recognition to rank on Google abroad. But I've helped so many e-commerce brands dominate Google in multiple countries, and I even did that for brands that were completely unknown. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact step-by-step framework my agency uses to get international traffic for e-commerce stores. Let's talk about the most common mistakes e-commerce brands make when trying to expand internationally. Because here's what usually happens. A brand sees a few overseas orders trickling in, maybe someone from Germany buys a product or they get some website traffic from Canada, and that triggers the thought, we should launch internationally. But instead of following a clear process, they just start translating pages, buying new domains and relying on guesswork. The result? Zero traction, zero rankings, and sometimes even legal trouble. So let's walk through the 7 most common mistakes I see and how you could avoid them. First mistake I'm seeing a lot of e-commerce stores make is doing no actual market research. Most brands skip this part entirely and they dive into a new market based on a few orders or some ad data, without even understanding the deeper landscape. But each country has its own customer behavior, its own regulations, and its own competitive dynamics. And if you miss this cultural context, things can go very wrong. So here's a classic example. When Ford launched the Pinto in Brazil, they didn't realize that Pinto is Brazilian Portuguese slang for tiny male genitals.
Oh, hell no.
You can imagine that sales flopped and this didn't work for Ford. But even less dramatic mistakes like violating privacy laws or misreading local intent can keep your brand from ever taking off. The second mistake that I'm seeing is choosing the wrong domain strategy. A lot of brands default by buying new country-specific domains like .de for Germany or .ca for Canada. But here's a problem. Every time you launch a new domain, you start from zero. No backlinks, no domain authority, no history. Instead, the better approach would be to choose subfolders on your .com domain, like yourbrand.com/de. This allows you to leverage the strength of your main domain while still creating distinct, localized experiences. It's cleaner, faster to deploy, and easier to manage long term, both technically and from an SEO standpoint. The third mistake that I'm seeing is doing auto geo-redirects. This one's a little bit sneaky because some brands think it's a good idea to redirect visitors based on their IP address. So if you're in France, you get pushed to the French side. But this creates 2 major problems. First, Googlebot can't access those alternate versions, so they don't get indexed. And second, users often get frustrated when they're redirected without being asked, especially if the automatic version is wrong. Instead, do what Amazon does. Show a prompt, not a redirect. Let the user choose. Give them the control. Mistake number 4 is hreflang mistakes. And this one even trips up experienced marketers. Either the codes are wrong, like using ENUK instead of ENGB, or the tags aren't reciprocal, meaning they don't properly link back and forth. Worse, I've seen brands even canonicalize everything to the English version, which basically tells Google, only rank this version, ignore all others, and that just kills your visibility in local markets. If you're serious about international SEO, you need to get the hreflangs right. No shortcuts here. The 5th mistake I'm seeing is poor localization. Because let's be clear, like translation is not localization. Brands often run their copy through Google Translate or hire a cheap translator and they think they're done. But cultural context matters. I've seen brands launch in Spain, but leave the half of UI in English, or worse, display US measurements like ounces and inches instead of liters and centimeters. And words matter too. In the UK, pants means underwear, so if your clothing site lists pants and sweaters, British users might be confused or amused. True localization adapts the content, the language and the experience to your market, and anything else feels lazy and your users will just feel it. Mistake number 6, doing no local keyword research. Just translating your English keywords is just a losing game. And why does this happen? Because people in different countries don't just speak different languages, they use different search terms altogether. In Spain, jacket is chaqueta, and in Mexico it's chamara. In the UK, people search for trainers, while in the US it's sneakers. Depending on the culture, they might have different questions, different use cases, and different priorities when shopping. That's why you need real in-market keyword research, not just a translated list of keywords. Mistake number 7, doing no local link building. Google doesn't just care about what's on your site, it looks at who's linking to you. And if you're launching in France, but you have 0 French backlinks, Google is not going to trust you as a relevant source. Especially if you're using a local domain like .fr, that domain has no built-in authority, so you need local links to gain trust. Without them, your new pages will be stuck on page 2 or 3 and will never even climb higher than that. So needless to say that doing local link building is very important. Now, That we've covered what not to do, let's walk through the framework we actually use to help e-commerce brands rank and scale internationally. Because expanding globally doesn't just mean translating some pages and hoping for the best. You really need a strategy, and this exact 3-step framework we follow will help every international rollout for every e-commerce brand. The first step you take is analyzing existing performance and researching new markets, because we analyze the current performance, dig into where the real international opportunities are and where they're not. And that starts with a deep dive in Google Analytics and Search Console. We really want to know, where are you already getting international traffic or even sales? You'd be surprised how many brands overlook this. Sometimes there's hidden demand already coming from countries, and that's a warm signal to prioritize these markets first. From there, we compare your target countries and we look at market size, search volume, shipping logistics, legal hurdles, and even local competitors, because not every market is equally accessible. You don't want to spend months localizing for a country where regulations make it nearly impossible to sell, or where shipping costs are going to kill your margins. So we focus your efforts where opportunity is high and competition is manageable. Then we localize local search behavior. And this is critical because what works in your home market might completely flop in another country. And using tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush, you can study how people search in each market, what the keywords are they use, how the SERPs are structured, what types of content are ranking, and we can even check if Google is the main search engine, because in some regions it's just not. This helps us uncover search intent gaps and opportunities that your competitors aren't addressing. If you want us to implement this exact international SEO framework for your e-commerce store while you focus on running your business, check the first link in the description to apply. The second step in the international SEO framework is structuring your site for global SEO. Once we've chosen the right markets, the next step will be building the technical foundation to support your international SEO at scale. And this starts with choosing the right URL structure. Our go-to setup for most clients is subfolders on the .com domain, like yourstore.com/fr for France or /de for Germany. And why? Because it lets you retain all the authority on your main domain, and it's much easier to manage than dozens of ccTLDs or subdomains. We keep everything tied to a single authoritative root domain, and that gives us both technical control and SEO leverage. The next thing will be hreflang implementation. This is the part that makes or breaks international visibility. We set up hreflang stacks using the correct language region formats like ENGB for UK or FR for French in France. Each version of the page must link back to all others. That reciprocity is what gives signals to Google and shows that each variation is a localized version and not duplicate content. And usually we always validate these hreflangs using dedicated SEO tools, because one tag and you're just invisible in that country. And the next thing that is important is the technical setup. So avoid IP-based redirects. They block the Googlebot, and you could better use a simple language switcher on your site to let people choose themselves. We also submit XML sitemaps for each locale, so search engines can easily discover and index every version. And finally, we use CDNs for speed, and we make sure that the CMS supports multilingual content without hacks on duct tape. All of this makes your site easier to crawl, faster to load, and structurally sound. That means faster indexing and higher rankings in every target country. Step number 3 is execute the content and authority building. So now that the foundation is set, it's time to create the content and authority signals that get you to the top of results in each country. So let's start with localized keywords research. You can't just translate your English keywords and expect to rank. Each country has different terminology, and that's sometimes dramatically different. So for example, what Americans call flip-flops, Australians might call thongs, and the Spanish word for jacket differs between Spain and Mexico, which we discussed. So we use tools like SEMrush to search by country, filter by difficulty and volume, and we uncover the keywords real people are using in that market. From there, we move into transcreation and not just translation. That means rewriting your content in a native tone with cultural nuances intact. We avoid idioms like hidden out of the park that don't translate well, and we'll adapt everything from meta tags, alt tags, button, and even interface elements so it feels natural to the user. Then we tailor the site to local preferences. This means including currencies, units, measurements, images, or even the product relevance itself. We adjust navigation for seasonality, like holiday categories in December. And we include local payment and shipping options, which builds trust at checkout. We also repurpose winning content from your home market. And if a blog post or landing pages perform well, we just clone it and then add a local twist. That might mean swapping in regional stats, adding country-specific keywords, or including testimonials from customers in that market. We also make sure to avoid duplicate content, even between English-speaking countries. We rewrite or use hreflang tags properly. We never connectalize unless we target that country. So here's what most brands fall short on. It's like the local authority building. If you want to rank in France, you need French websites linking to you. So we built local backlinks from country-specific blogs, news outlets, directories, and media. We'll analyze competitors' backlink profiles in each market and then find ways to replicate or improve on them. We also use local PR and influencer outreach, partnering with creators or organizations that speak directly to your target audience. And then we hit local directories and citations, business listings, review platforms, shopping sites, all the signals that tell Google you're relevant in that region. Another thing is showcasing local testimonials, local case studies, or even Google business profiles in the country if applicable. And of course, in Europe, you need to be sure to be legally compliant, including GDPR and country-specific data requirements. All these things build trust signals for Google and your customers, and that's necessary before you hit that lovely #1 spot. The difference between e-commerce brands that succeed internationally and those that waste months spinning their wheels is having a proven framework that works. While your competitors are still figuring out basic translation, you could be dominating Google in multiple markets and capturing revenue they didn't even know exists. If you want us to implement this exact international level SEO framework for your e-commerce store while you focus on running your business, check the first link in the description to apply. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.